Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, as we all know, shipping is going through a very confusing but very important transformation at the moment. In parallel, there's a lot of pressure in terms of regulations and an increasing efficiency of the way shipping companies are working, which was also discussed in the previous panel. And a great solution for this comes with implementing new technologies. We're in a digital age where there's a lot of information all over the place, and it's quite challenging to be able to decide and implement the right solution for a specific company. I'm very excited because the group of panelists we have here with us come from a very broad range of companies in the industry, so we're going to get a lot of different perspectives on the same topic. So we're going to start with Vlassis Papapanagis from TOTOTHEO. As a beginning, I'd like to understand if you can explain to us a bit better what the status of the industry is at the moment in terms of connectivity. Based on your experience, what percentage of the market has already implemented connectivity? And do you believe that the transformation is happening too fast or too slowly?
Sure. Thank you so much for being here today. And it's a great, panel and great discussion, hopefully. In terms of the connectivity, connectivity has been in the market for many, many years. It's not something new. But of course, it has progressed a lot the last few years, especially with the launch of the LEO solutions. And while a couple of years ago, when the first LEO was launched in the market, there was some kind of hesitation from the companies. These days, it's standard, it's approved, it's used, and I'm actually referring to Starlink. So we have seen the adoption of, the LEO taking over as primary connectivity. And of course, it's utilized along the other connectivity solutions have been in the market for many, many years, like the typical KA, KU bundle with 4G and 5G. Now, obviously, the trend is that if you would like to consider connectivity from the basis of digital transformation or real-time, optimization, then the situation is completely different. Because we see, for example, big operators with big fleets who have the capability, they have the skills, they have the resources, and they have adapted connectivity, and they have 3 and 4 different connectivity solutions on board. And obviously, they combine this with a hybrid approach. They can utilize, obviously, data and analytics. They can integrate data from IoT. So we see a very fast adoption of the digital transformation, obviously with challenges, because it doesn't mean that, these organizations can, scale up and adapt everything, in one day. But then on the flip side, you have smaller operators, companies who have, 3 and 4 vessels, or they have regional, fleets where connectivity still remains to be a cost element, not an enabler for, data analytics and digital transformation. So we see that the market up to now moves in 2 speeds. Obviously, what, worries me a lot is obviously how, vessels becoming more smart, and of course, this is happening, is how the ecosystem moves along this transformation. And I see that, for example, steel companies, they adapt technology, as I mentioned before, but because of not standardization in the data, not understanding of the data, because of the governance, lack of, principles and understanding, and also cybersecurity, we see that there is a gap. And that creates, obviously, more risks from a cybersecurity perspective, but also minimizes the effect that the technology can bring and the ROI that can bring to the companies. So for us at TOTOTHEO, it's important to help our customers, bridge this gap and make sure that they have the connectivity, they can use the different, systems to enable all these different applications so that they can actually utilize the data and then see the maximum, let's say, ROI from this implementation. So connectivity is here. It's been utilized, but then again, the main thing is to connect the data to the insights and decision-making process. So this is what we need to work.
Thank you very much, Vlassis, and for focusing on the fact that we need to look at technology as an investment and an enabler rather than a cost center. I'm going to move over now to Anna Vazintari, who is the CTO and CISO of EUROBULK. I'd like your view on what based on like technology transformation, what the future vessel is going to look like, what the impact of AI is going to be on the industry, and how this is also going to affect cybersecurity.
Thank you, Alkistis. From my perspective, I think that the digital vessel of the future is more like a smart vessel. And at this point, we need to define what smart is. We can compare that with human beings. So, to my perspective, a smart person has access to knowledge, is continuously learning, continuously using knowledge to think and to adapt to situation, conditions, different conditions, and also is able to take decisions that is for their own benefit at a specific point of time. So if we take this comparison to what a smart ship is, we can see the same characteristics. A smart ship should be able to have access continuously to sense devices on board, to have access to data, to collect data, to think and act upon them, and take decisions with the human intervention for the human benefit and targets. Let's use AI in this equation. What is AI in the smart ship of the future? I would compare it with the brain, the brilliant brain of a human being. And AI is that brain of a smart ship. So it's a technology, AI-based technologies that are being used for making decisions for the benefit and the targets and what each company has for a target, for safer, for more efficient and sustainable shipping. And we need to point out one distinction here. Smart ship is not an autonomous ship, okay? Autonomy is let's say, is trying to take actions from human, whereas smartness is enhancing and augmenting human decisions. So we have to make this distinction. We're not talking about autonomous shipping, but smart shipping. And also, a smart ship is always connected. This is automatically means that we are exposed to more cybersecurity issues, threats, and risks. Being continuously connected augments and expands the cyber risk surface. So we need to take this into consideration and for sure be always alert, be prepared. These changes also have to say things about people and adoption, people's culture, both on board and ashore. So these are matters that should be discussed and taken into consideration when adopting AI technology and cybersecurity measures.
Thank you, Anna. You mentioned connected systems. So what's happening at the moment is that you go to implement technologies and companies end up with a lot of separate systems that are disconnected to each other. And now we're in the process of connecting a lot of them together. But what that means is that the risk of one, if there's a cybersecurity issue, moves on and becomes a risk in one of the other ones as well. So I'd like to get firstly the view of Manthos Maheras, who is the Chief Information Officer at Metrostar Management Corporation.
Okay, thank you for the question. For sure, all this AI revolution elevates ever more the role of cybersecurity, all this AI and data revolution. So let's start with regulation and compliance by making clear that being compliant is not the same as being cyber secure. I'd say we're lucky to have all these new waves of regulation coming, also in cybersecurity as in emissions. We have the BIMCO guidelines, some years now. We have the IMO 2021. We have the NIS 2 lately, focusing on governance and risk management evermore, and imposing a reporting obligation to the organization that get attacked. And we even have, by the classes, the new uniform requirements, AR 26 and 27, that bring this obligation even to the yard and the new building. But all these regulations don't make us secure. To give an analogy, you know, a vessel analogy, they set the course, but we have to steer the vessel correctly through these regulations and make our companies secure through everyday procedures, culture, and safety environment.
And how do you balance the bureaucracy with the impact?
I would say that, of course, new systems and more platforms, digital platforms, and AI add to that. They offer great assistance. And I would say the first thing that we'll see autonomy built in is cyber defense. We need the cyber defense to be autonomous at large. We need it to be there 24/7 and work for us. And we just oversee how it works. That's the next trend. So using more, you know, an overall umbrella system, you can have everything under control.
So same question from a different perspective of the supplier. I'd like to move on to Iraklis Mathiopoulos, who's the Executive Vice President of Labs and DFIR at OBRELA. So what is your opinion on the systems become more connected and the impact of cybersecurity? And what would you recommend to companies to focus on?
Thank you for the invitation and thank you for the question. I have to say it's not an accident that I will agree with all the aforementioned speakers. Vlassis mentioned the cybersecurity gap. Anna actually said smart ships. It's interesting because the same way you have a smart washing machine in your house that can be compromised by a student or a Chinese hacker or Russian or Iranian, it's not that indifferent from having a smart ship. It's the same underlying technologies. And of course, Matthew also mentioned about the important regulations that I know that most of us here, we hear the word regulation and we hate it. We see it as a blocker. It's something imposed and usually something that will cost us in time and money. But particularly with the incoming autonomous shipping, it's a very crucial. It's of very crucial importance to have cybersecurity defenses. The products that you have in order to safeguard not only your ships but also the offshore operations and your offices, because you're now, everything is interconnected, right? They need to be shipping and maritime aware. You need to have specific incident response teams that have maritime playbooks that can be, on a moment notice, can be there to respond to a cyber attack and to help you contain the threat. Again, time is money in these situations. The longer you do nothing, the more it's going to cost you down the line. There are multiple examples of organizations, shipping organizations, ports, yards getting compromised, and at the end of the day, cyber is not a technical risk, it's an operational risk. Cyber can affect your operational normality, and it, at the end of the day, affects your bottom line.
And if there actually is a cyber attack, the financial impact can end up being huge. So it's much better to avoid it with a lower cost. We're actually focusing on preparing things. Now we're going to move over to risk and safety. So we all know that the geopolitical situation is a bit trickier, than it was last year when we were having this conversation again. So I wanted to move on to Angelo Lazaridis, who's the Chief Commercial Officer of the DIAPLOUS Group. And I wanted to ask you how technology adoption comes in to help reduce these risks that happen, and how vessels can become safer, both from a safety of piracy as well as a health perspective. And what is the impact if a vessel goes offline?
Thank you, Alkistis. Can everybody hear me okay? 1, 2, thank you. Thank you, Alkistis. First of all, I would like to thank Danae, Christina, Olga, Besadakou, Alkistis, and the whole Navigator team for organizing such an amazing event for one more year. It's a privilege being here. And thank you for the question, Alkistis. Actually, this goes directly to the heart of the smart shipping discussion. Because for ship owners and ship managers, as we know, their problem is not just one thing. It's this constant pace of change. The fact that we're living in a geopolitical stage where everything changes day to day. We see wars break out from one day to the other, ceasefire agreements happening, yet escalations can happen again overnight. I think, talking about smart shipping, my vision and goal would be to create a complete veil of both security and safety surrounding every seafarer, every vessel, anywhere in the world. Because as Danae mentioned in her opening remarks, we have to enable shipping to keep going. We cannot let it stop. And also, one more item is to move the industry from a more reactive stage, where it is mostly now, to a more preventive and proactive area. This can be done in two fronts, both in security side and safety, because both of them have to happen together and not independently. On the security front, we're actually utilizing and harnessing technology to power our 24/7 digital monitoring service. What does that mean? Essentially, one of the problems of shipping is also information overload. We are flooded with advisories, we're flooded with information, and at the end of the day, we have to make a decision. What we can do is, as an example for the Red Sea, where there has been quite a big escalation, we can use this technology and not just transit and wait for a drone attack, a missile attack, etc. We can do a deep dive, affiliation checks, we can gather data, and we can actually create not just a pin on the map, but actually create a dynamic risk profile, do a deep dive on the affiliation points for every vessel and operator, and then take a decision if that vessel can actually transit through a high-risk area such as this, or not. And if it can, with what measures. On the safety front, this is where the next big evolution is also happening. Through the last, because one of the big emergencies also in safety has always been also the emergency evacuation at sea. Through the last 3 years with development, we have, for example, talking about smart shipping, a new capability that utilizes connectivity and a device that we're able now to help the doctors from ashore, which usually end up taking a decision of life or death, with very few points and testing grounds that we have sometimes when we have an emergency anywhere in the world. We now have the capability to offer essentially rapid blood tests, lab quality in a box, that then any doctor can take a quick decision with a huge impact within 15 minutes to either evacuate somebody, test for things such as troponin for heart attacks or D-dimer for thrombosis, and either save a life, which has a huge impact, or save potentially a big deviation that can cost some thousands and thousands of dollars for the company. So the impact is real. And on the second part of your question, what happens if connectivity is lost? I think that it's also like a really, really important question, because at the end of the day, we also have to talk about the human expertise. Because when everything fails, the most efficient machine is always and always will be the human element, right? The future of shipping, in my perspective, is not going to be, the future of safety, security, and smart shipping as a whole is not going to be about technology versus people. It's going to be about the resilient and smart integration of the two. Thank you.
If I may add, Alkistis, let me add that similar platforms are now these days utilized for commercial purposes also, because we get some calls in the office after the hardening of the measures against Russian oil, and we get calls. Why is the ship stopped? Do you do ship-to-ship? Where has it been the last few weeks? Strange calls that didn't exist in the past. These days, similar platforms that used to be used only for safety, they're now also used for commercial purposes, to track, why is AIS off? Why do you turn off? And I tell them, it's a strange geography there. We didn't do it. So let's note this.
Can I also add on that obviously connectivity is very, very important, and obviously for safety purposes you can have, let's say, a situation where the vessel is completely, let's say, on its own without any connection to the shore. So that's why it's important to have multiple connectivities and also have the right infrastructure in place to support, especially when that happens. And then to the human element, I would like to emphasize that, because we've seen sometimes, and our role is to advise the customers. Some customers believe that just having a firewall, it's a cybersecurity infrastructure in place. So sometimes there's like confusion. Sometimes just not exactly having the right skills and knowledge. But then imagine this when today some providers offer unlimited data. And this is going to be the trend coming very, very soon. So imagine as a consumer, I have my phone and I can actually be 24/7 using my data. Same thing can happen on the vessel. So if you cannot control it, if you don't have the systems to manage the different connectivities, and then if you don't have the cybersecurity and the training within the crew, then things can be really very risky.
Can I also add? We said that we have to be connected. So in order for the vessels to be connected, you have to have redundant systems. So this is the trend and this is the future. We will deal with a vessel like being a site office in the future. And one more thing about the comment of Manthos. Unfortunately, regulation, we have seen that regulation is the enabler of things. So, from our perspective, we need regulation. We need regulation as the enabler of having procedures, of having organization, of taking measures and having the budget for that. Otherwise, we tend to keep things as we know them in the past. We tend not to take initiatives about new technologies, and unfortunately, I will say it again, we need regulation. We need regulation, and from the CTO and CISO perspective, it's something we expect, like NIS2, which is a bit vague. If it is finally something that the shipping companies are subject to, then we will have to face supply chain, which is not the case for the time being. So many things are a result of regulatory frameworks, and I'm afraid that we have to face them.
Yeah, it's a reality that the regulations are here and they're going to stay, even if there will be some amendments. So moving on to our next section, those who know me know that I'm very practical and a very positive person. So there's always a lot of talk about technology, what it's going to do, what's going to happen. But I would like our speakers to give very specific, each give one specific example where they've had a problem, they implemented a technology that solved the problem, and what impact this technology had on their organization. So I think we should start with Vlassis and move in this direction.
For us, because connectivity is one of our key, let's say, strengths and expertise, the success stories is how we can enable customers to utilize the different, let's say, connectivity solutions and obviously support their operations. We have done successful projects, and of course, you know, I would like to highlight how complicated it can be, especially when you deal with customers with big fleets. So recently we did a very big, let's say, project with a customer who wanted to deploy Starlink to a few hundreds of vessels and obviously orchestrate the connectivity as a primary, but at the same time make sure that it can be orchestrated with their SD-WAN and obviously with the other connectivity solutions and with key applications that the customer would like to use, for example, the cybersecurity, which is very, very important, but also a system that tracks the vessel and provides to the customer the capability through our customer application to monitor the fleet, be in a position to know exactly where the vessels are, monitor the surrounding vessels, but also utilize the data analytics to perform weather routing and performance optimization. We're actually at the last stage of implementing the weather routing optimization, so I cannot, let's say, share the outcome at the moment, but we hope that this will demonstrate significant results in terms of fuel, let's say, savings.
Angelo?
Thank you, Alkistis. It's always good to share success stories, I think, in shipping. From our side, the last couple of years, due to the escalation, of course, in the, let's say, in the Red Sea, has been quite difficult for us. How we had to adapt very quickly, and we had to embrace the fact that we have to use technology in order to enable shipping. For us, we've been able to utilize connectivity, data analytics, to stay on top of geopolitical events, understand how the situation unfolds day to day, use open sources and not open sources. You know, with more than 300 vessels per month, we have our own intelligence network. That's a lot of eyes and ears on the ground, seeing what's happening day to day, filtering out the noise, helping essentially customers to see if we can get them not to be targeted, or if they're going to be targeted, to advise them, you know, that maybe transiting is not going to be the best choice. And it makes me very happy to say that so far, knock on wood, that we've been able to complete every single transit without a single soul lost. And that's going to be our goal. Thank you.
Anna?
I have two examples. One is what Vlassis already said. We have employed Starlink. So LEO satellite infrastructure was something that enhanced crew welfare, but also helped us having our vessels connected with the office most of the time, compared to previous and legacy systems. And the second one is that we have employed AI-based performance monitoring platforms that use telemetry, take data from torque meters, flow meters, and from noon reporting, so that we have that visibility in the office to take decisions for technical performance matters.
Great, thank you. Mantho?
I would choose as a success story the case of getting DNV cybersecure notation on the last 5 of our tankers. And why is that? Because there are 2 different yards, one in China, one in Vietnam, and 5 vessels. And it was the first time that everybody got along, because the owners, the principals, had the commercial interest in having one more notation, whatever this might be. It's good for the vessel. And through this exercise, that we have to write down all the assets, everything that connects to an IT or IoT network on board, including navigation, the engine, alarm monitoring, our cyber systems, the crew network, everything has to be written down. And this way, it was the first time that everybody got together. And strange enough, we got to be better friends with the technical department, because for the first time, we got their performance system or the torque meter system in plain sight. The same with the marine department. We got the Alkistis, the navigation system, the NAVIGATOR, whatever they had, everything on board. So, in this way, the actual digitalization came to life. All the companies saw the digital solution being there, being secure, being praised by the general management, and everything going well.
Thank you. Iraklis?
I'm going to change names and places to maintain anonymity, but we had a customer who we monitor their cybersecurity through our MDR platform, shipping company with a couple of LNGs. We suddenly receive an alert of some suspicious behavior in the crew network. Fortunately, we had our DFIR, our incident responders, standing by and engaged in order to contain the specific threat, which was one of the crew members picked a USB stick in his workstation, and then the attacker tried, it was an actual attacker, tried to laterally move into the OT network and control a few important systems. Hopefully we were able to stop them in time and minimize potential risk and downtime. So yes, it highlights the importance of being resilient and having a plan and being prepared.
Great, thank you, Iraklis. If we want to keep one key message, which we can all leave with, is that it's understandable that technology has a lot of challenges. It is difficult, but it is here and it is going to stay, and it's already being implemented in multiple companies in the industry. So it's good to keep a positive mindset. I'd like to say a big thank you to our speakers for being here with us today and sharing their insights, and thank you to everyone for listening.